R Fletcher. Now sit back and prepare to be entertained. Welcome to the Dripping Bucket
Podcast. Welcome to the Dripping Bucket Podcast, where us reprobates take hostages and interrogate them about their publishing experience. And this time our hostage is the wonderful Holly Tinsley, author of We Men in Fashion Shadow, spearhead of the Anatomy of Fear anthology, and Holly is also dropping a brand new book very soon. What day is your book dropping, Holly? I should have known this ahead of time.
It drops on the 22nd of March.
22nd of March. So somebody planned these episodes really well. We're not sure who, but somebody did. And probably by the time you're listening to this, you can go immediately and buy Holly's book. And so we're going to try to entice you to buying Holly's book by letting her babble about it as much as possible. So, Holly, you were saying that the HALLOWS was kind of your break book, your reignition of passion, and I think a lot of us can relate to it. But the really important question is, floating nuns, question mark?
Floating nuns, question mark, is right. I mean, that's pretty much what I started. The first page was just floating nuns, question mark. And then everything else built around that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you market books. You gotta write to market, and there is a market for floating nuns.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's pretty much where book ideas come from. You sit there and you think, floating nuns. Yeah, I can do a whole book about that.
Yeah.
That's how it happened. I mean, just to throw this into the mix as well, it's not just floating nuns. It's floating nuns, flying nuns, armed and dangerous nuns, nuns with guns,
armed and dangerous nuns,
business nuns. Yeah, it's a nun-heavy book, and they're all really awesome characters. They're not even the main characters, but they are awesome.
Some other person is the main character, stealing all the spotlight away from the nuns.
Yes, very much. So the nuns, just to kind of give you a bit of background, are the people who work for this it's kind of a corporate entity that's sprung up from the church that is the predominant religious institution in the book. They run the Providence Company, which administer and manufacture and oversee the HALLOW. So Cam, who is our protagonist, he works for the Providence Company. So through the course of his job, he kind of comes into contact with a lot of the sisters, and he's sort of a roving, is that a word? I think that's a word.
Yeah, I think it's a word. We're writers. It can be a word now.
It's a word now. So yeah, he kind of works as an investigator for the company. His job is to make sure that their interests are being protected, whatever that means. So he goes out and he deals with drug smugglers and bootleggers and all sorts of crazy riffraff.
And then, so the floating, flying, armed nuns are allies to the main character, or are they antagonists to the main character?
I mean, I think he would probably say it depends on the day of the week.
Okay, excellent.
But they are essentially all employees for the same company, so they are there to represent the religious side of it. But they also work for the company, so they work in things like marketing, PR, security. So we have security nuns. It's cool to write a male character who is the main character in a very kind of matriarchal. I mean, it's not the society. The society is kind of a normalcy, but within that system, it is very matriarchal. It's very female-led. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to write.
That does sound a little bit cathartic too, I imagine. Where don't think about it too hard, Fletcher. It's okay. We're not judging you specifically.
Okay.
But am I understanding from the blurb right that it's the magic that's outlawed and controlled? Or have I made... Yes, I got it. Reading comprehension.
Yes, so the Hallow is it's a kind of a sacred elixir. So it's born from this faith that the old bloods have. So the old church, they initially used it for like communing with like their god and for like religious ceremonies, and over time it kind of became like mass produced and commercialized. So now it's used by people for work. So they take the Hallow, they get imbued with these powers which kind of they are natural but they're dormant unless they take the Hallow.
Okay.
And it gives different people different skills and abilities depending on like who they are. So they kind of use it for labourers and the workforce, factory workers, that kind of thing. So there's a real mix between the kind of the commercialization of it and the kind of more sacred traditionalist use of it.
That sounds absolutely up my alley. So then, since it's a little bit more recent for you, having written it than We Men was, can you kind of talk about a bit about the influences on it, even if they're not book influences, even if they are video games and TV shows and
Sure.
Scorsese movies?
So there's two with the Hallows, well, kind of three, but the main two is, I don't know if either of you have ever seen or are fans of Critical Role at all.
No, I think you've missed us that one.
I can tell from the blank expressions there, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Someone in the audience will absolutely know and buy your book immediately.
I mean, I would highly recommend if you're into Dungeons and Dragons at all. It is a show that they started out on Twitch and then eventually it moved to their own channel, and I mean they're huge. So Matt Mercer is the DM for it, and they've run several campaigns. They've got a animated show on Amazon now. I think they did like the biggest.
I think I am familiar. There's certainly like plenty of memes that
yes.
From them. This is media these days. I know that from a meme.
This is it. So
I think Fletcher just aged another 10 years.
What's that meme where people just crumble into dust and just
Exactly.
what the hell was I talking about?
Influences, yeah.
Yes. So Critical Role, their first campaign, which was on YouTube, there was a character played by Taliesin Jaffe called Percy. He's got a really long name, which I'm not going to try and say, but Percy. And his character's theme was the idea of hubris. So this
interesting
idea of, ambition that goes beyond what it should be and the consequences thereof. And Percy's storyline revolves around him being possessed by a demon who constantly wants him to take vengeance on people. So he has a list of people that he's going to try and kill. It's all a little bit Arya Stark. But his kind of character was the main influence for where Cam came from. So I wanted somebody who had this ambition and this interest in science and politics and faith, but really didn't get on with any of them. Which, I'm not sure where I was going with this, but that was the first one. The second one was, I don't know if you guys have seen Arcane on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes, so absolutely loved Arcane. It was one of my favourite shows that year, and I think
it came out our SPFBO year, didn't it? Like, I seem to remember it being very comforting for most of the finalists. Where anytime a hard review came out, it's like, hell with this, I'm going to go watch Arcane instead.
I've derailed myself. So
sorry.
No, it's fine. It's just my brain is kind of slowly melting. But yeah, Arcane, I liked the whole concept of the city having these kind of two different levels where, you've got the people on this, like the top level and the people on the bottom level. And then you'd got, I don't know if it was like a drug or it was like a serum, wasn't it? I think in Arcane that they had. So I wanted to do something that was not just like that, but had those themes of like social difference, and the fact that people will use the people below them to fulfill their needs or to get what they want. But once that person is then unable to fill that kind of purpose, they're done with them, basically. And I think a little bit maybe of like the classic kind of horrors, so like the Penny Dreadfuls and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein, all those kind of ones that really explore, you know, who is the real monster in this scenario.
Once again,
so this is secondary world fantasy rather than real world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the cover. I see like a fedora. I'm guessing sort of 30s-ish gangster level technology, or more magic than that, or
it's a little bit earlier than that. So I think I based most of the technology on around like between 1920 and 1930. So we're kind of talking, you know, the
Decopunk,
the flappers and the prohibition. You know, there's cars, there's phones, there's technology.
You beat me to it, Holly. I'm really annoyed with you now. Yeah, it's cool to see like the steady advancement of the timeline in secondary world fantasy, where you know, we're familiar with a certain time period for fantasy, and it's really cool to see folks like rolling that ball forward a couple of eras at a time. So I am very much looking forward to the rise of the Decopunk secondary world, and we'll say that you set the trend.
Yes, revolution starts here.
Yeah, starts with Holly Tinsley. Yeah, what made you settle in that time period? I'm probably going to nod a lot. I'll agree with everything you say.
I don't think there was ever any specific intention. I know that I wanted to have like a very film noir vibe to it. And I think that just kind of naturally gravitated towards kind of 1920s, 1930s. But I think the 1920s was a time where, especially for women, you'd got a lot of social change and social upheaval. So you'd got like I know people kind of look at flappers as a bit of a funny thing now, but it was actually a really big social movement.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was a claiming of freedoms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got that side of it, and then we've got the nuns as well. And again, you know, we're talking post First World War, where women had started to go out more to work in different industries and different jobs, whereas, you know, they had worked before, but it was kind of very specific to certain areas. So, you know, going into the factories, going out into the yards and doing that kind of thing. So because I knew I wanted that matriarchal backdrop, the 20s just felt like it was like a perfect fit.
Yeah. Yeah, that it is such a fascinating era of shift. And I think that'll speak to your themes really well, of like wanting things but kind of hating the things that you want, like from the sounds of what you're saying about your main character, where it's like he has the ambition but he actually kind of hates the system that he's ambitious towards. So
yeah, I think it's a case of knowing that change is possible and wanting to know that you can change something or that you can make something happen, but then maybe not like actually believing that it should, but that kind of that need to know that you can is greater than you know, the kind of fear of consequence.
I suspect that'll be very resonant for a lot of people. And then also, like, it sounds like you had a lot of fun with it, which I think is exactly the purpose of a break book, where it's like, I need to love this job again. And I'm curious how that affected the process for you, where if you were kind of like, you know, hell with everything, I'm just going to do whatever I want, including floating nuns, as a way to reignite your creativity.
I don't know that I necessarily thought that at the time. I think looking back now, probably that is the case. I knew that I wanted to do something that was more whimsical, because I love whimsy, but I love dark whimsy.
Yeah.
So I love like Guillermo del Toro stuff because it's really dark, but it's also quite
weird and magical. And
yes, it's magical. Yeah, and I think I do like to inject humour into my books. I do like to inject the ridiculous because life is ridiculous, and reflects that. So yeah, I think I just kind of went down this road of just seeing what came out and just totally going with the flow and not really having a plan. And I got to the end and I thought, okay, I've got this book that's got like drugs and magic and churches and nuns and people that fly, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to market this thing.
The answer is always floating nuns.
There is some joy to writing those books. You have no idea how you're going to market them. And that joy lasts right up until the moment you're finished writing them and realize that, okay, now you actually have to market them. It's like, why?
Yeah, you're doing that right now, aren't you, Fletcher? Yeah, the book that you worked on most recently is like...
Yeah, the insect thing. That was a terrible idea. The hell was I thinking?
Oh, see, actually, I was talking about the one that you're working on right now.
Oh, yeah, Clash of Grannies. Another brilliant idea.
I mean, I'm sold already, just on the title.
Yeah, see? I feel like these weird ideas that we come up with are actually probably the hookiest of our ideas, because if it makes people pause and go, excuse me, what?
Yeah, I think readers don't know what they want, which is okay, because we don't know what they want either. Yeah. So you kind of have to both stumble upon it together, and that's, mostly something that happens by accident.
Yeah,
you just kind of... Oh, go ahead, Holly.
I think, this is a vague memory that's just come back to my head now, but I'm pretty sure, I think when I was writing Vanguard 2, I had a conversation on Twitter with someone, and they said, like, what's the weirdest, like, book combination that, like, you could imagine or you could write? And I think I said something like Frankenstein meets Leaving Las Vegas. And I think that just kind of, in my subconscious, got embedded.
And that's where you are now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. It's funny how like these ideas have such a long development time, I think, where we have to suffer quite a lot sometimes in order to decide that we're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
And then so this was your pet project to kind of cure the burnout, which we love to see, and I hope that joy translates well to the market, because marketing floating nuns, that's going to be so much fun. Like, even that I think should help to cure the loss of momentum a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely the thing that people have zoned in on. So I'm hoping to get some artwork done for it, because I feel like we need the images. All of your marketing needs to be just art of nuns floating with very large guns, and people will be like, excuse me.
Yeah, nuns on drugs with guns.
Yeah.
Floating.
Yeah, it hits a lot of really cool points.
Yeah, it's one of those books as well. I'm sitting here thinking, like, I'm sure there's like other things that happen in it that I should probably tell people about. But I think it's a small book with a lot in it, so So
you'll have to tell us at least one other thing then. If you're going to say something like that, you'll have to jump into at least one other thing that you think you should tell people to sell them on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, put you on the spot again. I like to end heavy. Yeah.
So maybe not so much about the story itself, but kind of more about the world and how much I want people to come into this world and enjoy spending time there. I actually wrote an RPG game to go with the book. So
cool.
It's actually it's on the website now. Actually, it's completely free. People can download it. It's just a little 2-page guide, but it actually sets up a game where people can play either as the characters in the book, or they can play as their own characters, but based off of the Old Blood race that features in it. And
so there's like a guide to building their own characters? Oh, that's cool.
Yes. So you get cool powers, and you can obviously pick your powers, or you can, take the roll of the dice and see what you get. And it could be something really awesome. Could be something less awesome. You take. But yeah, that was a really fun process to put that together and to try and expand on the idea a little bit more, so other people could come into it and engage with it. And yeah, it would be cool if people downloaded it and played it and just had fun with it.
Yeah. How did you come into that? Like, is just kind of a byproduct of you doing your own world building, or was it something that you set out as a decision?
I mainly did it because obviously the influence of Critical Role and watching other D&D Twitch players, and now I've started DMing my own games on different forums. So it kind of felt like it was a natural fit for the crossover between kind of my reading audience and kind of the D&D community that I play with. So I like bringing people together. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's a really clever way to like expand it, and then just kind of hook people in, and hopefully you'll have some crazy stories of people's campaigns.
That would be cool if people like tag me in their campaigns. I mean, I don't know that they will, because obviously I don't know. I've not tested this game, just to say. It is a complete experiment, so it could go horribly wrong, you know. But
I think that's the fun of these indie spheres, though, is we get to take these really weird chances, like writing our own RPG games and stuff, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying in the last episode about community and investing in it, and how, you know, they carry us through the hard times. And so then on the reverse side, it's really fun to feed the togetherness when we're feeling like we have something to give. And it kind of like loops itself together, and, you know, something meaningful about emotional bonds. I don't know. I ran out of steam.
Blah, blah, meaning, blah, blah, emotional bonds, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to be mindful of who I'm podcasting with. If I get too sincere, then Fletcher will start making fun of me.
So I'm with you on that point. I think it comes down to wanting to give something back, because it is very easy to get caught up in like marketing, and obviously I want everyone to go and buy the book. That's kind of why I'm here. It's why I'm doing it. But doing something like that, it's just a nice way to say, well, actually, I just want to give people something they'll enjoy and can have fun with. You know, you don't have to buy the book to get it. You know, you don't have to know the story. You can just take this cool free thing and just enjoy it, and like it's a nice thing to put into the world.
That's really that's really cool. I'm really impressed that you put the time into building that, and I think it's such an interesting thing to do. Speaking of you being a trendsetter, it'll be an interesting thing for us indie writers to do, to use all of that world building that we're
all putting out video RPG games now.
Yeah, Holly has single-handedly changed the entire indie market. That's what's happening right now, folks.
Oh, you don't have your own role-playing game? What are you even doing with your time? Man. So what do you have lined up next? What are you working on? What's your next project?
So I have 2 projects that I'm working on, which I think some people will be relieved to know I am working on Vanguard 3. You know, it's happening. I mean, it's probably been written about 5 times by now, and I'm still not happy with it.
I can relate to that. Oh my god.
Third book syndrome. It's just, it's a lot. But yeah, Vanguard 3 I am working on. I am hoping, but not promising, to get that done for next year to bring out next spring. The second project I'm working on is based on the character Pen, who was in my Advent of Winter story.
Cool. Okay.
Which, again, that's already quite far along the process of being written. I'm really excited for that one. That is going to be my first foray into more, I say, traditional fantasy. It's still going to be grimdark, but it's more. There's a lot more magic. There's actual proper battles that happen on a battlefield, which, you know, so far out of my wheelhouse. So that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. And, you know, obviously people should not let me be in anthologies, because what happens is I write a character and then decide to steal them back for a novel.
Well, I mean, that's actually kind of brilliant marketing, though, so you should absolutely keep doing it. I know Anthony Ryan did that, where he was in an anthology for a David Gemmell tribute. And then the story that he wrote for it stayed in his head, and he ended up with an entire trilogy based on that idea. So yeah, it works, and I own the whole trilogy, so it works.
Yeah, I think most people do it the other way around, though, don't they? I think most people write the novel and then they put short stories into anthologies, so people are like, oh, okay, that's cool, I like that.
Oh, damn, here I thought I was being really sneaky.
I think I'm the same as you. I'd usually do a short story and then later think, oh shit, that's a cool character. Like I've 2 or 3 novels have, like the Manifest Illusions, Obsidian Path, those both started as short stories that kind of just got out of control.
Path also started. I didn't know that.
Yeah. That was in Heroic Fantasy Quarterly in 2011.
Oh,
you were what, 3 years old back then, Krystle?
A little bit older than that, but I hadn't published yet, so I was more youthful.
Didn't have the author stare by that point.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have the 10-yard trauma glaze. Well, there you go. I think if people aren't sold on the HALLOWS yet, clearly they have all of their priorities wrong. Because I need to buy it immediately. Thank you so much, Holly, for coming on to chat with us about it. That was really fun.
Thank you for letting me ramble on about my weird, quirky little book.
Listen, this is a space for weird and quirky, absolutely. Which one of us is weird and which one is quirky, Fletcher? Don't answer that. Don't you dare.
I think you got both. I'm perfectly normal, very entirely sure why I'm here.
Yeah. You told me to come to you, so that's why you're here.
Oh.
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
Well, thank you again, Holly. And thank you, Fletcher, for sitting there and looking threatening. You have to end every episode on shenanigans. It's part of the contract.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you again for joining us, and looking forward to the HALLOWS.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.